Okay, good morning everyone. In this class we are discussing about the development of aortic arches and their development. Hope you all are clear with the concept of development of heart. Let's start with the development of aortic arches and their derivatives. The arteries present in our whole body is mainly derived from the two sources. Those sources are pharyngeal aortic arch arteries and the dorsal aorta. Our aortic arch artery supplies to the head and neck region, whereas the dorsal aorta supplies to the rest of our body. Okay. Next, the first artery to appear in a developing embryo is a right and a primitive aorta. In this diagram, you can see two separate primitive heart tubes. Is there any difference between primitive heart tube and endothelial heart tube? In this diagram, you can see two separate heart tube followed by a primitive aorta. This pink part what you are seeing, that is primitive aorta. Now my question is there any difference between primitive heart tube and endothelial heart tube? Have you heard of endothelial heart tubes before? Okay. So the primitive aorta what you are seeing here, the pink part have three parts in total. Based on the position they are present in respective to the foregut, we part them into three divisions. The one that present ventral to the foregut is named as ventral aorta. The part that present dorsal to the foregut is named as dorsal aorta. Between the ventral and dorsal aorta, we have a portion that is called a aortic arch artery. Looking at this diagram, I can define the aortic arch artery are the vessels that present or connects your ventral and dorsal aorta that passes through your pharyngeal arch arteries. Remember the sentence pharyngeal arch arteries. Okay. So what is the definition for aortic arch artery? Aortic arch arteries are the vessels that connects your ventral aorta and dorsal aorta that passes through the pharyngeal arch arteries. Okay. So how many parts are there? Three parts, those are ventral aorta, dorsal aorta and aortic arch arteries. So after the fusion of two primitive heart tubes, the two ventral aorta partially fuses to form the aortic sac. Here you have seen two separate primitive heart tube. Now those two primitive heart tubes are fused and become a single heart tube. The cranial most part of the single heart tube is called truncus arteriosus. To the truncus arteriosus, your ventral aorta gets fused. The fusing point or that part is called aortic sac. Okay. Here we have the remaining unfused part. These are the unfused part. The unfused part of ventral aorta is named as right and left horns of the aortic sac. Okay. So your ventral aorta combines with the truncus arteriosus to form the aortic sac. Whatever the remaining unfused part is there, that we name it as right and left horns of the aortic sac. Then it is followed by your aortic arch arteries. Then this is the dorsal aorta. This is the right side and this is the left side. Okay. Next, aortic arch arteries develop during the 4th and 5th week. Each arch is supplied by an artery, that is the pharyngeal arch arteries, which are derived from your aortic sac. Thus the aortic sac gives us 6 pairs of aortic arch, in which the 5th one will disappear. So this is the diagram that shows the aortic arch arteries. We have total 5 aortic arch artery, because the 5th one will disappear, but still we name them as 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 6th. Fine. So this development takes place from the 4th week to 8th week. In the 4th week, we can see the appearance Am I audible now? In the fourth week, we can see the appearance of first, second and third aortic arches. Okay. During the fifth and sixth week, we can see the appearance of fourth and sixth aortic arch. In the same week, the disappearance of first and second takes place. At last, during the eighth week, we can see the derivatives of third, fourth and sixth aortic arches. Is it clear for everyone? So, when the development will start? From the fourth week, and it extends up to the eighth week, okay, fourth to eighth week. During the fourth week, we can see the appearance of first, second and third aortic arches. Okay. Next, in the fifth and sixth week, we can see the appearance of fourth and sixth aortic arches. At the same time, disappearance of first and second takes place. So, by the end of sixth week, we have remained only with the third, fourth and sixth aortic arches. During the seventh and eighth week, we can see the modifications takes place in this third, fourth and sixth aortic arches. Any doubts in this? Is it clear for everyone? Any doubts last? No. Okay. So, the appearance, disappearance of the aortic arches and also the modifications will be studied under the concept called fate of aortic arches. Okay. As I already mentioned, in the fifth and sixth week, disappearance of first and second aortic arches takes place. The dotted line represents the disappearance of that particular structure. Okay. Here we are seeing the disappearance of first and second aortic arches, but only the dorsal aorta that attached with your first and second aortic arches will remain. Okay. And the dorsal aorta here. The dorsal aorta part present between your third and fourth aortic arch is called kerotid duct or ductus keroticus. This will be your MCQ question. The last, what is the name of the dorsal part or dorsal aorta part present between your third and fourth aortic arches? And the answer is kerotid duct or ductus arteriosus. Sorry, keroticus. Ductus keroticus. Okay. Now, during the fifth and sixth week, we have already seen the disappearance of first and second aortic arch. We are then remained with the third, fourth and sixth aortic arches. Now, the modification starts taking place. Here in the third aortic arch, you can see a small bud arising in a upward direction. This is nothing but your external carotid arteries. Okay. The remaining part of the third aortic arch joins or continue with the dorsal aorta. Here it is, dorsal aorta growing cranially. So, this comes and attach with your third aortic arch. Now, this give rise to your internal carotid artery. So, this is your external carotid artery, this is your internal carotid artery. So, this part will become a common carotid artery. So, what are the derivatives of third aortic arch? Right and left, this is the right and left common carotid artery and their branches, that is external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. Is it clear for everyone, derivative of third aortic arch? Okay. At the same time, the disappearance of the carotid duct takes place on both the side, that is on right and left side. Disappearance of carotid duct takes place, and also the dorsal aorta present in the right side will disappear until the point where it meets the dorsal aorta of the another side. So, in this B diagram you can see the derivatives and also the disappearance of dorsal aorta on the right side. Only on the left side we have dorsal aorta now. Is it clear for everyone? Okay. Next, in the fourth and sixth aortic arteries, the right and left modifications are different. It is not like the third aortic arch where we can see the similar modification on the right and left. Okay. Now, in the fourth aortic arch on the right side, it continues because of the absence of dorsal aorta. It gets continue with the 7th cervical intersegmental artery to form the right subclavian artery. So, your right subclavian artery is formed by the 4th aortic arch of the right side plus the 7th cervical intersegmental artery. On the left side, we have the presence of dorsal aorta. So, only the 7th cervical intersegmental artery alone forms the left subclavian artery. The 4th aortic arch is not involved here. Then the 4th aortic arch gets combined with your left horn of the, this part what you are seeing here, no, this is your aortic sac. This is the right horn, this is the left horn. So, now your 4th aortic arch combines with your left horn and aortic sac to form the arch of aorta. This old structure what you are seeing here, no, this is the arch of aorta. Is it clear for everyone? So, what are the derivatives of 4th aortic arch? On the right side, it forms right subclavian artery from it forms right subclavian artery from the 4th aortic arch artery plus 7th cervical intersegmental artery. What about the left side? We have arch of aorta and left subclavian artery. How the arch of aorta is formed? Here you can see the disappearance of first and second aortic arches, right? Yes. Here, see, this is your arch of aorta. This is still in a developing stage in fetal, okay? This is just a picture or a figure that happens or that particular process takes place in the 6th week. We are still talking about that stage, okay? So, the 4th aortic arch on the right side gives right subclavian artery along with your 7th cervical intersegmental artery, okay? In the left side, we have two derivative. One is arch of aorta, that is formed by the 4th aortic arch artery, left horn of the aortic sac and the aortic sac, okay? And left subclavian artery is formed by the 7th cervical intersegmental artery. Is it clear now at least? No. Okay. Let me go for the 6th one. After finishing the 6th one, I will explain once again, okay? To discuss about the 6th aortic arch, these 2 points are very important. The 3rd and 4th, listen, the 3rd and 4th arch arteries opens into the ventral part of the aortic sac, whereas the 6th arch arteries is open into the dorsal aspect of your aortic sac, okay? Imagine this is the aortic sac and this is the ventral part, this is the dorsal part. Your 3rd aortic arch and 4th aortic arch will basically open into the ventral side, and this is your 6th aortic arch, it opens into the dorsal side. To show this difference, here they have used two colors. Whatever the pink structure you are seeing, no, that means it is opening into the ventral side. This violet structure means it is opening into the dorsal aspect of your in respective to the aortic sac. Next, Spiral spectrum of truncus arteriosus extends into the aortic sac in such a way that third and fourth arch arteries receives blood from the ascending aorta, whereas the sixth arch artery receives blood from the pulmonary trunk. So, the structure which is opening into the dorsal aspect is receiving blood from the pulmonary trunk, and the structure that is opening into the ventral aspect is receiving blood from the ascending aorta. Okay. So, now this sixth aortic arch is opening in the dorsal aspect. Here you can see the small outgrowth which is called as branch to lung bud, this structure. So, during the last week, that is on the 8th week of development, this part that is beyond to the lung bud will basically disappear on the right side, but it remains on the left side. Okay, you can see the disappearance of the structure here. So, this bud alone forms the right pulmonary artery. Whatever the part that is present beyond your lung bud will disappear because there is no presence of dorsal aorta. But on the left side we still have the presence of dorsal aorta. So, whatever the part that is present beyond your lung bud will now get attached with your dorsal aorta to form a structure called ductus arteriosus. Again, this is also your MCQ question. Ductus arteriosus, and here the lung bud on the left side gives us left pulmonary artery. So, from the sixth aortic arch we have three structures. On the right side we have right pulmonary artery, on the left side we have left pulmonary artery along with one more important structure called ductus arteriosus. Is it clear? Sixth one? Okay. So, now tell me what is the doubt. So, okay, your aortic arch arteries and their derivatives development takes place from the 4th to 8th week. During the 4th week, that is at the first level, we can see the appearance of first, second and third aortic arches. Next, in the 5th and 6th week, we can see the appearance of 4th and 6th aortic arches. At the same time, first and second aortic arches will disappear. The whole first and second aortic arch will not disappear, a small part will remain. From that also again few arteries will arise, I will discuss about that later. Now, remind that first and second are also disappeared. So, by the end of 6th week, we are only remained with the 3rd, 4th and 6th aortic arches. Is it clear for everyone? So, from the 3rd, 4th and 6th, we can see the derivatives or modification that takes place in the 7th and 8th week. Okay. So, from the 3rd aortic arch, we have three derivatives, that is right and left common carotid artery, external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. From the 4th aortic arch, that is present on the right side, we have right subclavian artery, and on the left side we have left subclavian artery and arch of aorta. From the 6th aortic arch, we have right pulmonary artery on the right side. On the left side, we have left pulmonary artery and one more important structure called ductus arteriosus. How the ductus arteriosus is formed? Now, it is a structure or a part that is present beyond the lung bud that gets attached with your dorsal aorta. Okay. Is it clear now? Any doubts? Others? So, from the remnant of first aortic arch, I already mentioned completely the first and second will not disappear, some small part will remain, that I am naming as a remnant. Okay. The remnant of first aortic arch gives a derivative called maxillary artery, and the remnant of second aortic arch gives a derivative called, any idea? Hyoid artery and stapedial artery. Hyoid and stapedial artery, which are present only in the fetal life. Okay. So, now this is the source of development of all the main arteries what we have discussed until now. Your arch of aorta is formed by aortic sac, left horn of the aortic sac, and also left fourth arch arteries. Right subclavian artery is formed by the fourth aortic arch of the right side and the right seventh cervical intersegmental artery. This is the table representation of all the derivatives what I have discussed now. From the remnant of the first arch artery, we have a derivative, that is maxillary artery. From the remnant of second arch artery, we have a derivative, that is hyoid and stapedial artery, which we can see in the fetal life. Third, fourth, sixth I have discussed just now. Until now we have discussed about the primitive aorta that supplies our head and neck region. Okay. The rest of the body is supplied by which source? The rest of the body, this primitive aorta and their derivatives, whatever we have discussed now, supplies our head and neck region. The rest of the body is supplied by which source? Did we see any modification or any derivative from the dorsal aorta here? No, right? So, the rest of the body is supplied by the branches that are the derivatives that comes from your dorsal aorta. Okay. Development of other arteries of the body, they mainly develop from the primitive dorsal aorta, and this primitive dorsal aorta gives three sets of branches. Those are called dorsolateral, which is also known as somatic intersegmental branches, lateral and ventral splanchnic branches. These are the three branches of your primitive dorsal aorta. And the dorsal lateral branches forms arteries to our upper limb, lower limb, and also to the intercostal lumbar and the lateral sacral arteries. The lateral splanchnic branches gives phrenic, suprarenal, renal and gonadal vessels, whereas the ventral splanchnic branches gives us the vitelline and umbilical arteries. This is same the table representation. Any doubts?